So, I attempted to read a book. It's Imaginary Friend. It's by the same author who wrote Perks of Being a Wallflower, which, if you've read that book, it's much shorter than Imaginary Friend, and it's not really a lighter read, but it is definitely a more relatable read. The characters, to me, were more relatable. It's a realistic kind of slice of life story following high schoolers. He's a high school freshman. He's naturally very shy and awkward, and then he's kind of thrust into high school and having to deal with the ins and outs of that. And I think that's something that all of us can relate to on some level, and that's why the book did so well and the movie did so well. But then the author went and wrote this book called Imaginary Friend, which is about 3 times longer. The audiobook in and of itself is over 24 hours long. I did not know that when I rented it from the library. I have been listening to it in the car just as I drive around. I drove around for about 3 hours and only made it through 3 audio discs and got to a point where pretty much the entire world ended, and I'm still only about halfway through the book. So I'm really curious to see, really interested to know where the story is going to go from here. So I kept listening, trying to figure out where on earth this book is going to go from here, and it went nowhere for a very long time. It's just I'm slogging, and as I continue slogging, it continues getting worse and worse and more unbearable. And it's gotten to the point where I've started having stress dreams about it, and I really do not want to continue reading it. So I went online and found another blogger who read the book and gave a very detailed summary of how the book goes and how it ends, and I have decided not to continue reading the book. That's the short version. So the story basically follows Christopher. He's 7 years old. He's the son of a single mom. His father apparently suffered from a depressive disorder and had committed suicide, and his mom took that really hard and got into a series of unhealthy relationships. She's now escaping her most recent unhealthy relationship, packs up her son and their few belongings, and drives halfway across the country to this little middle of nowhere small town in Pennsylvania called Mill Grove to escape this abusive boyfriend. And they're kind of in a financial crisis, and Christopher doesn't have any friends, and he's dyslexic, so he kind of gets in with this in crowd of social outcasts, which is fine. That's, everything seems pretty okay up until now, until Christopher meets a cloud man. There's a face in the clouds, and he makes friends with this thing, and then it starts talking to him through a plastic bag. There's a plastic bag hanging on a tree, and this plastic bag person we call him the nice man, and that's his friend from the imaginary world. And the nice man tells him, you need to hurry up and make not a Christmas tree. You have to make a tree house. So he recruits his friends, and they sneak out repeatedly in the middle of the night to build a tree house. And my printer's going, so this is fun. So he meets this plastic bag man, convinces him to build a tree house, and they finish this tree house in record time. And this treehouse ends up being a portal to this imaginary world that's basically, they're still in the real world, but you can see other things. There's imaginary creatures, there's this mysterious kind of very creepy old lady named the Hissing Lady who hisses a lot. There's just, it's weird. And somehow they come to find out that the Hissing Lady is going to try to, or somebody is going to try to break the barrier between the imaginary world and the real world, and in the process of doing this, mass chaos erupts, and Christopher gets really sick because the more he's in the imaginary world, the stronger he'll become in the imaginary world, but then he gets sicker and has these really terrible headaches. He's basically popping painkillers like candy to moderate this headache. And so our first clue that the nice man maybe isn't as nice as he seems to be is the fact that he prevents Christopher from sleeping or resting in order to build this treehouse. He's encouraged to break every rule his mother's ever made, disobeying his mother outright, to go build this treehouse, and tells him you can't sleep, you can't do this, you have to keep doing this, and the other thing. But anyway, so then Christopher is at school, and he somehow fakes out being well so he can go to school. But he does that and somehow infects a bunch of kids, his friends, bullies, a few teachers, the school librarian. When he touches them, he burns them, and now they're going crazy because not only do they have a burn on their arm, that burn itches, so they're going crazy, and this thing kind of spreads like a virus through the town, kind of like the COVIDs, if you think about it. It's a little bit too close to reality for my comfort. That being said, so that happens. So the town's kind of going crazy. They're all getting irritable. They're all not sleeping, or they're sleeping too much, and they're losing their minds. The very nice librarian tries to kill her husband. A few other people are doing really weird things, and Christopher is finally able to convince his mom that all is not what it seems to be in Mill Grove, Pennsylvania, and his mom does what she does best and tries to just pack him up, loads him in the car, and they try to run. And meanwhile, there is another character. She's, I want to say 16, 17-year-old. She's grown up in a very strict Catholic home, and she is basically going through what any teenager would go through. Sexual exploration, whatever, but she's freaking out because she's grown up very strictly Catholic in the church. And so she has been basically asking / demanding of God that if she commits a sin that is so bad that she cannot be forgiven, that he would make her hit a deer. So that's kind of a running theme, is these deer just kind of appear and people hit deer, and the whole time you're just like, she's gonna hit a deer, you just know she's gonna hit a deer. And so far she hasn't hit a deer. She's hit a bunch of other things, but not a deer. And that's okay, but other people have hit deer, and somewhere in there the deer are suddenly now like sentient, I don't know, like conscious, and they're working for the hissing lady. So there's that. They're like malevolent deer, and they're all hunting for this kid who's been burning everyone and making everyone go crazy. And so Christopher's mom picks him up, loads him in the car. They're trying to escape. They find the one gas station that's open, and they happen to get there just at the same time that this Catholic girl nearly hits yet another deer, loses control of her speeding vehicle, and slams into their car. And that's the point. Now we're transitioning into the realms of where I haven't read in the book. Christopher is alive and well in the imaginary world, anyway, so that happens. In the real world, chaos is still pretty much erupting. It turns out, the long and short of it from what I've read about reviews from people who've actually managed to finish this book, is so apparently the nice man is actually the devil, and he's actually the bad guy, which we kind of suspected earlier on, considering how he's interacting with Christopher and how he's encouraging him to break all his mom's rules and telling him he can't rest. That doesn't seem like the sort of behavior that a good character would encourage, but I don't know, my opinions. So the nice man is actually the bad guy. The hissing lady is somehow good, even though she's freaking creepy. She's somehow Jesus' sister? Not sure. The reviewers that I've read say that this is kind of just a thing that's brought up. It's not really ever expounded upon, so I don't know what the purpose of that is. Christopher is apparently in a coma in the real world, but in the imaginary world he's kind of running around that imaginary world. Crazy things are happening. People are having their mouths and their eyes sewn shut, and they're being hanged from trees, and pretty much just the world is breaking out in chaos, and it just sounds crazy. And somehow Christopher saves the day and everything goes back to normal, and I don't know what to think of this book, except that I have no desire to finish reading it. It sounds pretty weird, even for a psychological horror thriller thing. I think the thing that bothers me the most about it is the author really seems to have a disdain for Christianity and Catholicism in general. He has a lot of very off-putting thoughts about Catholicism and the Catholic Church and Catholic families. He does, again, he delved into this a bit with Perks of Being a Wallflower, but he does delve into different types of abusive home relationships. We've got the kid whose parents lock him in a doghouse. We've got a girl who's being abused by her stepbrother. We've got neglectful parents. We've got the drunk mom and the absent, like not really absentee, but just not really present father. They sleep in different rooms. The dad's always watching his sports games on his phone. Mom's always drinking. And then you've got the one family that has two moms, so that becomes a thing. But it's also other reviewers have pointed out it's a little confusing with the time, because it's supposed to be set in the present time, but in the present time things like having two moms and stuff like that aren't seen as socially unacceptable. So I'm not quite sure. I agree with them that I don't understand quite what time is supposed to be, because that mindset seems a little antiquated, considering our day and age. But it could just be the community being a small town, I guess, maybe, but I don't know. The book is long, and part of that is due to it's written very repetitively. A lot of the ideas are repetitive. The repetitive writing didn't bother me as much. I thought it's very well written. It's very lyrical. It's beautiful prose when he's writing prose that isn't weird or about maniacal deer. It's very beautiful prose, and the way it's very nice. It's nice to listen to in audio form, and it's not bad. I guess that's why I've made it so far. It's just I enjoy reading it because the prose is so beautiful, and the repetitive nature of it adds to the tension and adds to the character of the writing itself. I've heard reviewers say that the book itself has these weird little capital letters in the middle of the sentences. I don't know. I haven't read. That isn't reflected in the audiobook at all, so I don't know. I don't know about that, so I really can't speak to that, but that's something that's out there. The long and short of it is, the first third of the book is really enjoyable, and pretty much the only thing the author and I agree on at this point is that nursing homes are creepy, and I do not enjoy going to them either. So, but other than that, I think the author had a beef with Catholicism and nursing homes and deer, because all three of them kind of get a bad rap in the book, and along with a bunch of other things. But anyway, so that's my thought on Imaginary Friend. Anyway, so thank you for taking time to listen to my thoughts on that. If you are interested in reading the book, be my guest. If you have comments or whatever, feel free to share, I guess. Anyway, thank you for taking time to join me in this little adventure.